Hi guys, what's going on? This is Pads on Poker and this is my second episode on the YouTube channel. First of all, I just want to say thanks so much for the engagement last week. I had some expectations of around about 250 views, 20 subscribers. I realized the content grind is kind of all about consistently putting out content over and over again each week. So to get off to such a great start, I just want to thank all you guys so much. In today's video, I'm going to do a very different thing than last week. Last week's was all about a deep theory GTO kind of concept, whereas today's video is going to be about a live hand. I'm going to be showing a live clip that I played, and it's a hand that everyone always asks me about. Probably no one's ever asked me about hand as much as this one. It's, why did you fold this hand? Can you tell us some live reads? Can you tell us how you approach the spot? Can you tell us just why you folded this hand? So there's lots of stuff I need to speak about for this hand, so I'm going to play the clip. It's around about 2 or 3 minutes, but I'm going to stop it at different intervals and kind of explain my thought process and explain the key takeaways and the key points from what I believe is important to approach in a live hand. So, to the hand. This is a hand from day 3 in the Millions main event, which is a Party Poker Live tour. It's a $10,000 buy-in and first place is over 1 million. This is day 3, so we're in the money. We're in the last 10% of the field. It's a very exciting part of the tournament. We're on the TV table, lots of action going on. I'm just going to play the hand and I'm going to stop it at intervals where I'll kind of say what I was thinking at the time.
I shouldn't be surprised, but
Queens for Jamie O'Connor in the big blind.
I was just about to praise Patrick Leonard. I guess I certainly still can.
Yeah, right. It's not his fault here.
He's put on a hell of a performance early on, dialed in.
By the way, just quickly, look at Jamie. Look, I would not like to meet Jamie on the football terraces. No, he must be up there for hardest guy on the UK poker tour. I mean, the Stone Island, the big guy. He's scary looking for sure. No, in all seriousness, Jamie is one of the nicest guys on the UK poker tour. You know, you hear so many like rumors and bitching and bad stories about people, but no one's ever said anything bad about Jamie to me. Almost anyone I've ever heard say anything is like, oh, Jamie's such a good lad, such a nice guy, one of the lads, that kind of vibe. He's also, I think, a very underrated poker player. He's had huge success live, huge success online. He has a really good style. He's a tough player to play against. So he's someone who I have great respect for, both as a player, but also as a guy as well. Like, he's just a top player, top guy. Just want to put that out rather than it looks like I'm trying to mug him off by putting a video where I make like a hero fold or whatever.
Dream scenario here for O'Connor. Might I add, this is his second 3-bet out of the big blind. 2 orbits ago on a stone squeeze with King 3 offsuit, and now we fast forward here with the goods, a premium. Leonard is so methodical, studying his opponent, understanding ranges so well.
I'm glad that I'm getting the compliments from the commentator, and I do really appreciate it, but I'm not sure how analytical I was thinking at this point. At this point, I was thinking, fuck my life. I wasn't thinking 20%, 30%, 60%, X frequency, rolling this, rolling that. I was just literally thinking for the first 10 seconds, fuck my life. So thanks for the compliments again, Brent, but I wasn't being so deep into the thought lab just yet.
He may even consider folding some of the time, maybe unlikely with 2 jacks, certainly likely a call. If we can assign our opponent a range as narrow as ace queen, ace king.
So you can see there I threw in a time bank. Basically you get 30 seconds for every decision you make, and you get 5 time banks. So for the whole day you have 5 chances to make more than 30 seconds for a decision, which is not money. So this is also going to factor into the hand that my opponent 3-bet without using a time bank, so he made his decision in less than 30 seconds. We're going to think about that moving forward. So first of all, I just want to speak about the difference between 3-betting from the small blind and 3-betting from the big blind. When you 3-bet from the small blind, or when you're facing a raise and you're in the small blind, you're incentivized to play a very aggressive strategy. Why is this? If you just call, the big blind can call behind. So when you have, say, King 10 suited in the small blind, if you just call, the big blind is going to call with ace 10. Ace 10 dominates you. You can lose a big pot. The big blind is going to call with king jack, king queen. This is going to dominate you. You can lose a big pot. The big blind is going to call with hands like 6-5 offsuit, which has good equity against you. By free betting the small blind, you force the big blind to fold most of his range, so you're forcing a lot of equity out the pot. So essentially you're doing the hijack a favor too, because by free betting you're keeping the equity control between yourself and the hijack and making the big blind get pushed out the pot. The second consideration is, if I just call in the small blind, I'm going to look very weak, right? My range is not going to be that well protected. It's tough to protect the range. And the big blind, if he has a hand like, let's say ace 8 offsuit, which has good blockers but poor playability, he can free bet his hand and make me fold a lot of my range or put my range under great pressure. So of course there's ways to control your frequencies and control X, Y, Z, but just typically from the small blind it makes more sense to have a more aggressive strategy. But in the big blind, when just facing a raise and no one's called and no one's re-raised, you can play a lot of hands. You can defend 100% of hands if you want, because the price you're getting is so great, your pot odds is so great, and yeah, you're not incentivized to necessarily put much more chips into the pot playing out of position at a stack depth of around about 40 big blinds. As you get to kind of the 30-40 big blind range, you're going to see in the hand charts, which should be popping up around about here, you should see that you're incentivized to actually start having some shoves. So some hands in chip EV, you're actually starting to want to shove, like a hand like Jack 10 suited, for example. So as we start thinking about tournament life, more hands are going to go into a shoving range. We're going to also look at what our range should look like here. We can see that I'm supposed to open a pretty wide range. I'm opening every pocket pair. I'm opening most suited kings. I'm opening ace 8 offsuit. I'm opening Jack 10 offsuit at full frequency. Whereas my opponent, he has quite a wide value range here. He's free betting pocket 8s to get it in. He's free betting ace queen, some ace jack potentially. So his value range here in chip EV is going to be very wide because he doesn't need to take into account his tournament life. Of course, people are going to be in the comments, chip accumulation, this, blah, blah, blah. You know, it doesn't matter, ICM, blah, blah, blah. You're not proving anything, you're just saying words. What I'm going to do is actually go into the math in some bigger detail later and show how I kind of analyze these spots. Anyway, I'm going to let the hand roll out in just 1 second. But what I'm starting to think now in game is, okay, my opponent how should my opponent play in chip EV? That's always question number one. Number one, how will my opponent play in chip EV? So I start to think, close my eyes, start to think about how the kind of visualization of the chart looks like. I kind of realize, okay, he will have quite a wide value range, pocket 9s, pocket 8s. Against this kind of range, pocket jacks really wants to go all in because it's important for me to stack pocket 10s, to stack pocket 8s, to stack pocket 9s, to stack pocket 7s whenever he has it. But then I'm thinking, okay, in reality, he's likely not free betting these hands. He's likely going to free bet a more narrow value range, but he could have bluffs. He could have a polarized range where you take out some of the value hands and you add a few more bluffs, maybe go a larger size and put me into maybe a tougher spot with a lot of hands in my range. But then I start asking myself, how do people approach spots when they have a polarized range? Let's say Jamie had a hand like king free offsuit, like he free bet last time from the big blind. If he had king free offsuit, what you think first of all straight away is, okay, when you play online, someone raises, you free bet, and you have a polarized range, you typically go to a full 4x. So if I go 300k, you're likely to just instinctively go, okay, I'm going to go 1.2 million. I went 325k here, so Jamie naturally, from an online background, I would expect to go to 1.3 million, at least 1.2 million. Going to 1.15 million, I know it sounds a little bit like white magic, and you know I'm probably going to have some Chris Crooks in the comments telling me it doesn't exist, etc. But I really believe that in game, if he had a polarized free bet in hand, i.e. the weaker part of the polarized range, i.e. king free offsuit or ace 8 offsuit, I think it's very likely that just instinctively he works out that, okay, I want to go full 4x. Remember, my opponent only has 30 seconds to make a decision. My opponent here has gone to less than 4x and it's actually gone to 7.6 big blinds. So some opponents in the live, I'm going to show how I play with all the big blinds, but I play just in big blinds. So when someone opens to say 2.1x, I will say, okay, I want to go to 8x. I want to go to 8.5x. So when I play live, I will sometimes work out, okay, my opponent raised to 200k. I want to go to 8 big blinds. I'm going to go to 800k, for example. So then I go to 800k. Jamie here has gone to 7.6 big blinds. So again, I have to work out my mind. Okay, he hasn't worked out. I want to go to 8 big blinds with my range here. I'm going to free bet to 1.25 million, whatever 8 big blinds is. 1.3 million, I guess. He's just gone to 1.15 million. And I'm going to go Christmas shopping tomorrow when lockdown finishes. And I know I'm going to buy some stuff for $9.99. I know I'm going to buy some stuff for $49.99. I'm not going to buy too much stuff for £115 or £1,150. This is kind of a sizing that we often say in some circles. It's kind of a discount sizing. You know, maybe he has gone to the 1.2 million and say, oh, I'm just going to size down a little bit. Give the guy a discount. Give the guy something he can buy for Christmas. Invite him in with his Jack 10. Invite him in with his King Queen, which I dominate. So all these things are going through my mind. The last thing which I thought was a consideration is that it's very unlikely he has Ace King. Again, Ace King more likely to go full 4x. Ace King more likely to be the hand in the value segment which wants to go for that big polarized sizing. It's the kind of hand which you will work out, okay, I've got Ace King, close my eyes, I want to go 8 big blinds, what's 8 big blinds, and then you do it. So again, Ace King, unlikely. Pocket 8s, pocket 9s, unlikely. Bluffs to me now, pretty unlikely. So I'm just going to let the rest of the hand roll out, and then we're going to go into some slightly deeper analysis.
The majority of the time,
use the time bank, granting him an additional 30 seconds to act.
you mentioned Jamie.
So I don't want to go too much into live tells and be like, oh, I got this live tell, etc. I would say, first of all, Jamie, you know, like I said, very well dressed, can't get any reads on his neck. He's not gulping, he's not blinking. But something which he, look, by the way, just quickly, look at Sam Grafton. I think this is the start of the day. He's having dessert already. It's 1 p.m. and Sam Grafton's here munching on like a Magnum or something. Hilarious scenes here. Huge, intense pot, staring each other down. Sam Grafton, you know, the professional that he is, you're expecting to be there, trying to get reads himself. Nah, he's got a Magnum, he's loving it. He's absolutely loving it. But going back into some live tells, I believe that in these kind of situations, when you're very strong, people often try to create an aggressive dynamic. So you do lots of eye contact. You can see Jamie here is staring me down a lot. If you play in a casino which has live cash games or tournaments, something you can do in this spot is to say a joke to your opponent. So, for example, to Jamie here, I could say, oh, Jamie, you put me in the cage. And if I say that to him and he kind of laughs and says how, or like kind of smiles or gives me kind of a fake smile, this could be something which is a sign of weakness. He's trying to not create friction between us, not create aggression between us, not have this kind of aggressive dynamic between us. He's trying to be very jovial and be like, okay, let's just carry on with our day. Let's enjoy this experience together. If I say, oh, Jamie, you put me into the cage, and he's just staring me down like, yeah, I am putting you into the cage, then very likely he's going to be quite strong. And I thought Jamie kind of staring me down here was quite not aggressive, but a sign of strength. You know, if you remember High Stakes Poker or Poker After Dark, you would often see Tom Dwan just like staring down at the table. Not ever kind of, Tom Dwan would never stare down someone when he was bluffing, or never stare down someone in general. He'd always kind of, you have some players who are always staring down, you have some who are always doing eye contact, but I've not played with Jamie enough to say that he's always staring you down when he free bets. Maybe he is looking away sometimes. Maybe he is, you know, not trying to be as aggressive sometimes. So I thought to myself, if I make a fold here, if I play the hand passively, and then I can look back on the live stream and get a read that he had, say, queens, or I can get a read that he had king 3 offsuit, the next time when he free bets me, I can be more confident by 4-betting all in if he's kind of looking away, or if he is staring down at his cards or staring at the dealer, etc. So that was definitely something which was coming into my mind, and you may see as well coming forward.
Jamie have a lot of history as well.
Again, you can kind of see he looked away for a second, but then after looking away, he just straight back looking at me, which was, I thought, very interesting.
Another time bank used.
Again, looking away, looking back, and I'm thinking,
Really 6
use another time bank again. I thought it was worth it. You only get five.
Right
You only get
so.
5 a day to use, but this is a huge important pot. So I thought using as many as possible and trying to get some reads. Look at Hussein Ansan, the world champion of poker. This is what Sam Grafton should be doing. He's staring me down. He's like, "All right, I'm gonna get a read on this kid. For when I'm in a pot, I'm gonna get a read on this kid." Sam Grafton's on Magnum number 3. It's 1 p.m. And this guy's staring me down. I love it. Absolute professional.
Putting on such a clinic here early in the day.
Alright, so what I'm going to do now is pause the video and show how I analyze this kind of situation off the table. So what you can see here is Hold'em Resources Calculator. This is a calculator for purely pre-flop. It has a lot of really good functions. You can see here you can do basic hand, advanced hand, basic Monte Carlo, and advanced Monte Carlo. So this can be quite daunting when you don't know what to do. So I'm going to walk you through how I would look at this kind of situation. So Advanced Monte Carlo is seen between kind of sophisticated professionals as the model which we believe gives us the most accurate outputs. It takes into account more things like future game, etc. to a higher degree than just a basic or basic advanced hand. So what I'm going to look at first of all is chip EV and big blinds. So this is just if I'm playing against my opponent in big blinds, not taking into account tournament live, you press chip EV and big blinds. You have to write stack sizes down. It doesn't matter too much. It's important to write the correct amount of players so you have the correct pot size and anti-size. So we have 8 players here, which is correct. The only stack sizes which matter are the 2 stack sizes which are going to be in the hand. You can see here I have 40 and he has 40. I actually have 120, but it doesn't matter. As long as you have the effective stack size, that's all which really matters. My open size was to, I believe, 2.1x. And my opponent went to 7.6x like we spoke about. So I have these already dialed in. I'm going to press finish and you're going to see what will happen is it loads it up. I'm just going to let that do it itself. You don't need to watch that. Okay, so once it's loaded in, you're going to go to yourself and you're going to press to the hijack. You can press edit range and put your actual range, but it doesn't actually matter because what we're going to look at is how to play against the big blinds range rather than our range itself. We don't mind what HRC is going to, Hold'em Resources Calculator is going to tell him how he should play. All we're going to do is put in our own range. It doesn't matter at all. So I've put in 39% here. Maybe I would have opened 37. It really doesn't matter. So from here, we're going to go to the big blind and we're going to assign him a free betting range. So the range that we're going to give him, it's very interesting. First of all, you can see that HRC has kind of designed him a very polarized free betting range. It's given him 10s plus, ace queen suited, and then all of these bluffs. Of course, I'm going to slightly alter this range. What I'm going to do is take out all the bluffs. I'm going to just give him value first of all. This is without us changing his range. So I'm going to give him 10s plus ace king. Of course, like I said, I don't think he has ace king with his size in, but that's fine. I'm now going to give him bluffs. I could do this and give him all of these bluffs, but this is not how you do it. What you want to do is go to hand weight. So you're going to go to the bottom right here, press hand weight, and you're going to press 25%. And you're going to click on a few hands here like Jack 5 suited, King 5 suited, Queen 8 suited, Ace 8 offsuit, 5-4 suited. So you can see here, I'm clicking around the screen. If I just give him, say, Ace 2, Ace 3, Ace 4, Ace 5, then the output's going to be very skewed. It's going to give me a range of hands that play really well versus Ace 2, Ace 3, Ace 4, Ace 5. In reality, we can never know what our opponent is going to be using as his bluffs. So it's important that we scatter around the bluffs between offsuit and suited combinations, and we give him a kind of, a range of hands and a range of combos. So what I've given him here is basically just, 6 suited hands, 2 offsuit hands at 25% frequency. I think this is going to be quite realistic, quite reasonable. We could maybe give him a couple of more just so we're going to be on the pessimistic side. I think this is actually quite crucial to do. Always try to be pessimistic. Or try to be pessimistic against what your assumptions is. So if I think he's very value heavy, try to give him a few more bluffs first of all, just so I'm not trying to like level myself and make things one-sided. So once I've done this, you go to the top here, this blue green button, and I'm going to change this to 50 million iterations. So what's going to happen is basically the calculator is going to play against itself 50 million times, churn, and find out how much hands work. So if you remember Doyle Brunson in Bobby's room in Bellagio, he found out equities before calculators. He would deal 1 hand out at a time. Here we're going to deal 50 million, so that's fine. I'm going to press OK. It takes some time, so again, I'm going to just allow this, but it doesn't take too long. But for the editing's sake, I'm going to press pause. Okay, so I haven't looked at the results. What I'm going to do here, you can see I click down. So you click down from here and you see the response. Okay, great. So you can see here basically that pocket jacks against this range is making 0.28 big blinds. So not a lot at all. You can see the difference between jacks and queens is a lot. It's a very, very big difference. You can see jacks is making around about 10% of aces, which is okay. You know, you can see there's between jacks and tens is a huge difference. I'm losing 3.67 with tens and I'm winning 0.28 with jacks. So in general thresholds, I typically like to take 5% of aces as my value threshold if I'm playing a normal tournament. So if I'm playing, let's say, a 109 on party tomorrow, I will take any hand which is basically making 0.1. That's kind of how I decide, okay, I want to take this much value. This is how much edge I'm willing to kind of give up. In a live tournament with good structures and deep stacked and weaker players, not Jamie, but like the rest of the table or other tables, I typically will try to take around 10 to 15% of aces. So jacks would kind of be in this threshold, but again, it's against what I believe is an optimistic range. So what I'm going to just do quickly is take out ace king offsuit and take out 2 of the bluffs. And I'm going to see how jacks looks then. So again, I'm going to press the green button and I'm going to press 50 million. We'll be back in a second. So by the way, it's very important that you remember the EVs here. It's very important that you remember that jacks was 0.28 because we're going to look into some other things in just one little bit. So remember in your mind 0.28 for jacks. So again, we're going to click off here from here and we can see just by taking away ace king and taking away 2 bluffs, I've not changed his range so drastically. Jacks has changed from 0.28 positive to minus 2.31 negative. So against a range how I expect his range to be, and again, I don't even expect all of these bluffs. You know, I don't even expect him to have this much. But let's just again give him a few more. Let's give him a couple more bluffs. So this is a very bluff heavy range, right? So imagine he only has tens plus a value in ace king suited. He also could size ace king suited up, but it's another argument for another day. I've given him a lot of bluffs here. I think anyone watching this can be reasonable. I think this is most likely very, very optimistic range. So again, let's see how it looks like versus a really optimistic range. We'll be back in 1 second again. Okay, so versus this range, see jacks, it's still just not going in. It's still just not going in. As soon as you take ace king offsuit out of someone's range, the lowest pairs in your value range typically go down a lot because you don't get it in often against an offsuit combination that you're flipping against. So even though he has all of these bluffs, even though he doesn't have, just because he doesn't have ace king, he still has pocket tens, by the way, we still can't get jacks in. So this is good, first of all, for me to see. I do like to run these sims a lot, you know, try to see different thresholds, etc. So yeah, I feel like this is a good indication for me straight away. But what I'm going to do next is take into account tournament live and also give him ace king offsuit in that tournament live and compare the 0.28 with jacks and then speak a little bit about post flop as well. Okay, so what we look at now, or what I want to look at now is how can we take into account tournament live? So what we're going to do is we're going to go to here to advanced Monte Carlo hand again. With equity model, we're going to change it from chip EV to multi-table ICM. We're going to leave the stack sizes in on the table. I put my actual stack size in. And then here on the right-hand side, we're going to write down the prize pool. So what I've done here is I've just went to the Hendon Mob, went to the page, found all the payouts, wrote them down, and then I write them down here. So you put in the final tables, you put in the other ones. When you get down to the lower prize pools, instead of doing it for each one, if it's between 105 and 127 all get the same, you just type the 127 and the 105 and it'll just automatically give everyone in between the same amount of prize. So I've given 127 prizes here. You can then go for later on, you can press save. So if you press save the current structure, you can just call it 127 paid. So that next time when you have a similar spot, you can just study, you can already have all of the payouts done rather than having to write it each time because payout structure is generally going to be quite similar. I'm going to press all the stack sizes in here again. It'll just take me 1 second. So a little box will come up here. You type in how many players are remaining. Now 60. The average stack will be around about 40. And then total chips 2,400. And then here on the left hand side, you can see that it's generated stack sizes for the whole tournament. So basically I've randomized here and you have should be, yeah, there's 52 players left who aren't on my table. Remember, in the previous slide, I already wrote my table. Then you can see here, it's generated the short stack in the tournament to have 10 big blinds, and all the way through up, creating an average stack size of 40. The chip leaders are going to have around 120, and then big stacks 90, 80, 80, etc., which is fine. I'm going to press next. Same thing as before with the mechanics, 2.1, 3.7, 7.6, sorry, because that's what happened, and I'm going to let it run again. So this is pretty interesting. Straight away, if you remember last time in the big blind, the HRC recommended the big blind to have something like 10s plus ace, king, and then a few bluffs. So you can see again, straight away here, it's made an adjustment, no ace queen offsuit, it's taken 10s out, which is quite interesting, and it has less bluffs as well than before. We're just going to do the same range that we give him before, and we're going to give him jacks, 10s, ace, king offsuit, and then we're going to give him a few of these bluffs. So I'm just going to go 25%. Remember, it doesn't matter exactly the ones we give him, as long as we give him kind of random hands at similar frequency, it's going to be okay. So I believe it was something around about this, where jacks was 0.28. So let's have a look in ICM how this kind of changes. So we're going to press run again. Always remember to do that, and I'll see you in a second. Okay, so looking at our range here, we can see that jacks, from being a plus 0.28, not taken into account tournament life, we can see this has swung around straight away, and it's 0.57. This is without taking away ace, king, etc, etc. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to just literally do as we did previously. We're going to take away ace, king, we're going to take away a couple of the bluffs, and just see how poorly jacks will be doing now, just for some visualization. So again, we've taken away these hands, and let me even show the range I expected him to have. Like, I expected his range to be something like, hey, maybe 10s plus ace king suited, and then maybe some bluffs, but very, very, very few bluffs, as I spoke about previously. Let's just give him a king 5 offsuit as well. Let's just give him one of these at full frequency just to see what happens. Also, before seeing the results again, I also think that pocket 10s is another hand which is very likely to go into the bigger sizing or shoving, probably not shoving, but to go into that bigger sizing, the more polarized 3-betting strategy, because pocket 10s doesn't really want me to continue passively. Pocket 10s wants to force me into a shove or fold kind of situation. Pocket 10s is incentivized for 3-betting to allow me to 4-bet shove ace 5 suited, to allow me to shove pocket 5s. It doesn't really want to go for a small 3-bet size and then have me call, you know, like the queen jack suited, the ace 5 suited, the pocket 5s, etc., as much as it would like me to shove them. So yeah, again, we can just see that versus the range I expect him to have, jacks is just getting absolutely crushed. If we take away 10s and we take away the king 5 offsuit, which I think is even more realistic, we're just going to see how brutal it would be to shove here. Alright, let's have a look how bad we are. Okay, so jacks is just doing terrible. So two things I want to point out here is even queens against such a polarized range is more incentivized to just call rather than to go all in. Another thing I want to point out is when you're facing a polarized range, pocket jacks is not the hand you want to 4-bet shove. You want to shove a hand with a blocker to value and a hand which has equity against their value range. So if you take a hand like ace 2, it may sound crazy to some people, but ace 2 is a better hand to shove than pocket jacks. Even though jacks is the 4th best hand in hold'em, the 4th best hand in poker, it's better to shove a hand as weak as ace 2, because when we go all in and get called, we're going to be against jacks, queens, kings, maybe 10s. Ace 2 is going to have 30% equity. Jacks is going to be crushed against queens, kings, and aces especially. It also blocks him from having value hands too. When we have an ace, it blocks him from having ace, king. It blocks him from having aces. When we have a jack, it could actually even block bluffs. He may choose bluffs like jack 9 suited, king jack offsuit, you know, jack 5 suited, etc. When he has an ace, typically, he's going to be playing quite passively when he has like a weak ace, and aggressive when he has a strong ace. So having a hand like ace deuce will block it very heavily. So basically now we're gonna have to discuss, like, okay, jacks, we can't go all in. Jacks is just quite clearly not good enough to go all in. But could we potentially call? And I thought about calling. I used the 2 or 3 time banks. I thought his range is so... I thought the reads on his sizing, the reads on the big blind of the sizing, the reads on the actual sizing, the reads of him maybe staring me down, the reads of him not using the time bank, the game flow dynamics just weighted his range really strong. I couldn't really visualize him using these bluffs, just trying to put all the pieces of the puzzle together. If I do call with jacks, I'm going to have to stack off so often post-flop. The SPR is going to be around about 2, which is going to be pretty brutal. It means I have to stack off on basically every single flop, or most flops, because he's going to bet. I'm going to have an overpair, I'm going to have second pair, and I'm just going to have to go broke. I was in a situation in a tournament where I had an amazing stack. I was entering loads of pots, and you may say, yeah, but if you enter in pots and fold them, they can just exploit you, and it's this kind of merry-go-round of he knows, I know, he knows. But what I thought at the time was that my kind of image at the table, and kind of was confirmed from what Grafton said afterwards, was my image with Jamie is I'm very sticky, and I just felt that this was the time where if I go with my gut and I'm wrong, I've lost 2 big blinds in the hand. It's okay. Maybe I've lost slight plus EV call, but if I'm right, I'm getting away from a spot and saving 5 million in chips, which is like 50k in equity or even more potentially. So I know it may seem like a ridiculous fold. I'm not even saying it's a good fold. I'm just trying to point out what I was analyzing in game, what was going through my mind. And hopefully you enjoyed the video. I still don't have an intro. I still very new, raw to these content streets. I know I've probably been going on for too long. If you have gotten this far in the video, honestly, just so happy that you've gotten this far. If you haven't gotten this far, leave a comment in the comment section. Call yourself a savage, call yourself whatever you want to call yourself a sicko, call yourself a degenerate for getting this far, because I'm not sure I would be listening to myself for 30 minutes. But I am going to stop recording. I am going to release another video in a few days. So please like the video, comment, do all that stuff. I'm not going to tell you to subscribe because you've already subscribed last week, right? But if you have subscribed and you haven't pressed the bell, click the bell right now and you'll be notified whenever I do a video. Thanks a lot, and I really, really do appreciate it if you've gotten this far. Thanks.